Welcome to Sweeping the Country one more time. My co-host, Mr. Jimmy Carter. And today, Jimmy, we have two lovely ladies.
Yeah, we do. And they have nothing to do with each other, technically.
Nothing.
But when I was looking for things to do, I said, well, I love these girls. One of them is Wynonna Judd.
Yes.
She has got one of the best voices of anybody at any time.
I will agree.
And of course, she's been in the headlines because of her mother passing away.
Yeah.
And she just finished the Judd's tour. There'll never be another Judd's tour. There was that one, the final tour, and they finished up in Hollywood, Florida the other night. And then Rebecca De Mornay, I just ran across her interview. She smoked up the screen.
Smoked it.
She smoked it during the movie Risky Business, which was the breakout film for Tom Cruise as well.
I was trying
to dated her for a while.
Yeah, you told me that, and I had no idea of that. And I was trying to think of how old was I when that movie came out, because it was 1983, and why was I so into her at the time? And I think it's because, I graduated in 85, so 83, 2 years, I would have been 16 years old. The perfect age to fall in love with Rebecca De Mornay.
Boy, she was, we were I was in Atlanta doing a movie that she was the co-star in.
Yeah.
It was called The Slugger's Wife.
Oh, I remember that.
And it was like 84, something like that, baseball player's wife.
Yeah.
And we were at the High Museum for the premiere party. And she was going to be there and others being there. This is the big museum that's on Peachtree near downtown Atlanta. So I'm walking in. She's a little bit ahead of me, and this guy's behind me with long hair.
Yeah.
And I recognized him, and it was Tom Cruise. He had grown his hair for a movie called Legend.
Oh, I remember that too.
One of the early movies that he did, and he did not want to be recognized in there. He had been in Risky Business at this point, but not Top Gun. And so he kind of asked me to hang out with him a little bit behind.
Yeah.
Just so. And so there are pictures that I have. I can't show them here on radio, but it's me and Rebecca and Tom in the buffet line.
Oh, funny.
And then we ate dinner together that night while she went out and smoozed. And it was really cool. I mean, he was just a nice guy, nice kid, that he hadn't become this super duper doo star.
Yeah.
And she was just, lovely and sexy and everything else.
Yeah.
Rebecca De Mornay, but she had an edge about her. I will tell you that.
Okay.
Kind of an interesting edge, she was strong lady too.
Okay.
But sexy, strong, and put Kim Basinger and her would be my first two draft choices in Hollywood back in those days, because they both were just extremely great. But let's listen to a little bit. She was in Slugger's Wife. If you're trying to remember, Runaway Train was a good one.
Yep.
She was in Backdraft.
Oh, I remember that. Ron Howard.
The Hand That Rocks the Cradle was a good one. She was in a lot of other movies over the years. And here she is, Rebecca De Mornay.
What's the first day of work like for you on a movie? I know, like for real people who have regular jobs, the first day of work is terrible. It's nauseating. You're scared. What's the first day of work like for you?
That is a good question. A lot of times I'm sleepless. I used to be, actually, when I first started working in film. I used to be a complete insomniac before the first day of shooting. On this film, Guilty as Sin, it was a little bit mitigated by the fact that Sidney Lumet rehearses so much. So we rehearsed the entire movie for about 8 hours a day for 2 weeks. By the end of the 2 weeks, I felt like I'd shot the movie already. Mm-hmm. And so the first day of shooting became actually a lot easier.
So you already had your confidence at that point?
I think so, yeah, and I needed it sorely because I play a very confident character.
How have you changed in 10 years since I've seen you last? How has Rebecca the lady changed?
Well, I've talked to other actors and I've read other people's interviews, and a lot of people talk about how much they've changed. And actually, I don't think I really have changed. I think I've become more and more myself, if that makes any sense.
So you matured?
Definitely. I'm definitely maturing, and it's a good thing. I feel a lot less agitated, a lot less panicky about things that used to worry me.
Michelle Pfeiffer and you are about the same age. She told me that she's a lot less trusting now, 10 years later. She's a little more inside than she was, a little less extroverted.
I sort of feel the opposite. I feel I'm I've become more of who I am, and therefore I am more trusting, because I think it's more my nature to be trusting. I mean, I'm not stupid, but trust is important. I'm probably more social than I was. I've probably come out of myself a little bit more.
How do you look at your career? I mean, are you a workaholic, for example? Do you have to be working all the time?
I'm basically lazy, I think, but by the same token, I'm a Virgo and I'm very thorough. And I think I was very ambitious at the beginning of my career, which is probably what helped me get started in the first place. I think without a lot of ambition, it's almost impossible to get a career started, because all the odds are really stacked against you. And I've forgotten what your question was.
Well, basically, it's kind of in the boiling down to how you change type things, you know.
You want me to have changed in
No,
10
I'm
years.
just, yeah, you haven't changed, though. That's what, you know, you look physically the same. You're a much better actress because, you know, you've done a lot more things.
That's nice.
But I'm just wondering how you really concentrate on your career. Is it really something you're obsessed with? Do you have to be working all the time? Is it something you think about a lot, or you just do it like a job? I mean, is it your life or is it your work?
It's my work. I think there's a big danger in overinvesting and obsessing in any one ingredient in your life, whether it's a person or it's your job or whatever it is that you may want to fixate on and become compulsive about. I think I was much more ambitious and compulsive when I first got started, but I think that was necessary to propel me into anything.
When people run into you, like at the airport or on the street or something, what are they saying to you now? Who's recognizing you, and what are they recognizing you for?
Mainly now from The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. There are still people that get untold joy from recognizing me and saying that Risky Business is their favorite film and they've seen it a million times. And some people, quite a few very kind of sensitive people come up to me lately on an airline steward and said, you know, trip to Bountiful, I'll never forget that. But in general, it's kind of when people recognize me, it's with a very big grin of recognition. You are Peyton, and God, we love you, which is ironic because when I was making the film, I was convinced that people would really begin to hate me after seeing me in that film. And it's quite the reverse.
That is interesting. When you're making a movie, you don't really know that you're going to be in something that's going to stay with you your whole life and be bigger than you ever thought it would be. And that movie was such a smash, it has to have affected a lot of people. They probably look at you and say, oh my God, because you were kind of a nasty lady.
I was, but people love her more than they care to admit.
And I frankly was rooting for you, and I thought it was kind of a sick thing for me to do, because I hated the other people in the movie, the woman who left the kids alone and some of those kind of things. I was kind of rooting for you during most of the movie.
Well, I did a lot of publicity for that film in Europe and also in Tokyo. I was fortunate enough to go. And in Japan, they really took that character to an extreme, because I was being interviewed by this male journalist who said, you know, I don't understand your character. Why are you not kill a whole family? He thought that would have been quite fitting for my character to do, and was sort of weirded out why I hadn't.
So you think you can be appointed now to the Supreme Court, or represent me if I get in trouble in a criminal trial?
I don't think so.
Don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I learned just enough to get by in the movie.
Well, I certainly wouldn't mind paying you the lawyer fees as opposed to somebody I have paid in the past. So it'd be a lot more fun to be around. Thank you. Enjoyed seeing you in this film.
Jimmy, I got to ask you, and she is just wonderful. I mean, listening to that, I think, I don't think anything, I mean, edgy, yeah, maybe, smart, swift, hardened a little bit, but how do you get past the, I mean, you're sitting down with, you just said, top 2 draft picks in Hollywood at the time. I mean, a beautiful woman. How do you keep your composure? I mean, you're a single guy at the time, or were you married?
It didn't matter. And I would have still definitely thought a lot of her.
Yeah. Intimidating at all?
No, I don't let it. I mean, somehow it's like when I can sit down with Sean Connery,
right?
Or
Same
sit
thing.
down with Robert Redford.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Yeah,
Rocky, Stallone, whatever. particularly on the first date, first time you're doing a scene like in a movie, really.
Okay, all right.
And you know your appearance is important, how you appear, what kind of eye contact you can have to make some kind of bond.
Yeah.
They're actors too, and they know that they're doing a scene basically with you.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's just interesting is all I can say
Yeah, no
about
doubt
that.
about it. No doubt.
And she is 63 years old.
Wow.
And it's just her father was Wally George, and Wally George was a pretty well-known conservative radio commentator in California. He was sort of like a Rush Limbaugh in his day in Southern California, very controversial on radio and TV. So she, very, very interesting lady. Don't know, she's been married, and she was married to Bruce Wagner from 86 to 90. Doesn't have anything about her. She has 2 children.
She's been pretty private. I mean, honestly, I've never heard any interviews besides
I think you're right.
The one you did, yeah.
She's in a relationship with actor turned sportscaster Patrick O'Neill. They have 2 daughters together, but there's very little written about her.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So pretty much sounds like she sort of retired, but she played Dorothy Walker on Marvel's Jessica Jones 2015 to 2019. So
yeah,
I don't know, but I know I was crazy about her.
Yeah.
And I'm crazy about this lady too. I've always she just was always fun to tease. She was very funny, very great singer. I mean, just unsurpassed. When she starts to wail, Lord have mercy.
I agree with you. She's one of those, to me, that's not just a singer, but she's also an entertainer. I've seen her once. She's funny. The show is good. It's balanced. It's high energy, and it's fun. She puts on a fun show.
If you hear her sing songs like "No One Else on Earth," you know, or she sings a religious song by some case, woo. I mean, she is
soulful.
You know, she's one of the great singers, along with Trisha Yearwood.
I agree.
And Kelly Clarkson. I mean, she's up there with all of those singers. I think they would all look up to her, if the truth be known. Here's a little conversation in a recording studio with my friend Wynonna.
I mean, seriously, talk about it's unpleasant for me because the world I live in is music, and anything above and beyond that. That's why I don't like doing videos that much. Besides the fact that the budget aspect of it, I really am not into that as much anymore. I think as you get older, well, for me, I just don't rely on that as much anymore. I remember a time in my 20s and 30s when it was all about, you know, hair and makeup, and it still is when I have to, absolutely have to. I do my own for everything, unless it's an album cover or a photo shoot of some kind magazine. I do my own because I was doing it in the car on the way over here. I rely less and less on that than my gift, which is my voice. And I know in a world that we live in today of 8x10s, and I don't know if you'll notice this on the album covers now, I show all the lines. I'm real proud of them. It's been a long road. But no, they're not my favorite, because I think you feel very exposed. You feel, I don't know about you standing in front of people, and I have that performer's anxiety of people going, let's see, you know, has she put on a little weight? Is she, you know, do you know what I mean? It's just everything that you're insecure about becomes in the front center.
But you're not trained to be Cindy Crawford, and they got you moving around and doing all this kind of stuff.
It's
but
weird.
At the end of the day,
it's weird.
It always looks good. It somehow, you know, or at least I think it does, doesn't it?
I want it to show the joy part. I really loved the photographer, and she and I got along famously. And what's the Indian belief that the lens steals the soul? They really believe that, and I think that's why TV makes me so crazy. I literally go through this thing of looking for exits because I feel like that's going to zap me. I feel the same way about a lens. It's so intimate and so close. You have to forget it's there, and you have to tap into, okay, why am I here? I think about the reader, reading the story, and try to make that connection.
Don't you have to be in a different place, too, when you do a magazine interview? Because they get it all in your business, don't they?
They can, and I'm setting boundaries. I used to be quite the open book, but I'm learning to say no. You know, that's a complete sentence. And I used to be so forthcoming with information. The fans pretty much know everything at this point. Well, almost everything. And I want to be vulnerable and real, and I want people to know my heart. Because being famous and having success really stereotypes you. And I think I spend so much time trying to show people the human side of being a mother, being a wife, being an artist. And that's why I think I talk so much, because I want people to not think or assume for a minute that I'm above where they live. So I think I try too hard.
But they do get in your business, and we don't do it on TV. We're not allowed to get in your business, but they hang around for a day or two, or
they do, and they want
like
more.
And
it's just like that next door neighbor. They'll always want more. They always want to know the deepest detail, something you'll tell them and not someone else. And there's, anytime you do TV, and I won't name names, but a lot of the networks, if you do them second, they're not happy about that. So you have to give the exclusive. So I'm just going to start making up stuff,
But the Judd in you and Wynonna in you makes you want to make them happy. You want to be.
I want people to really love me.
They want to be satisfied customer when they leave.
I want people to love me to the point where I have therapy about this, because I want people, when I leave the room, to say she's, so nice, because I really worry that people are going to think if I'm quiet that I have an attitude, because I've gotten that before, and I've had this issue with some of the press people thinking that I have an arrogant attitude. It's the opposite. I have fear, and thinking I'm not good enough, and yet if you don't say something, they'll make up what they don't hear. You know what I mean? So I think I've always felt like I had to explain everything, why I do what I do, and hopefully people will like me. God forbid if they don't.
Let's go back in time to Kentucky. Who taught you how to play guitar? You remember those days when you didn't know what you were doing? I mean, you had a God's gift of singing, obviously.
Yeah.
But, this is W.O. Smith question.
Okay.
These kids are learning how to play piano. I think it's horrible to learn your first instrument of guitar, because it made me want to quit. My fingers hurt too bad. What do you tell little kids that are out there that want to do it? They know they have a little talent in singing, and they're trying to tackle learning a musical instrument.
That's a great question. I think I really want to speak to the parents first and say, allow your child to do their thing. In other words, I wanted Elijah to play piano, got him lessons, and he didn't care for it at the time. And I struggled with, well, it's a real good foundational thing. He needs to know. And I didn't push it, and I let him switch to drums. I always say on stage, to thine own self be true. Let your child be who they are, because we live vicariously through our children. We want them to be what we want them to be. Be very careful. If your kid wants guitar and you want piano, let them do guitar. They can always come back around. I tell kids and adults everywhere that it's just like a relationship. You do have to work at it. People think that they're going to be rock stars, especially nowadays. I worked on Nashville Star, and I noticed a lot of the one-hit wonder thing of I'm ready to headline, and here I've spent all these years learning the business. I think people really underestimate the power of also letting kids waste time in their gift. In other words, let them dream, let them play records, and let them get lost in their dream, because this up here is, and this right here has to connect. And so in other words, practicing is important, but allowing kids to dream and have fantasy is equally, if not more. In other words, the emotional intelligence is important.
But I know for a fact that you did not want to get up in the morning to go to Channel 4 when you were sleeping at whatever time y'all had to get up there. So
I wanted the $25.
But there's a certain degree of discipline that is required that may have to come from the parents.
My work ethic is because of my mother. I was not wanting to be a front man. I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to be on stage, but I didn't want to do the interviews. I didn't care about talking. It is a full package thing. And I plan on doing a camp someday where I have kids come out to the farm for a week and teach them mind, body, spirit. But for kids, I say there's discipline, there is the work ethic. We call it fake it till you make it. In other words, do the work physically and your heart will follow. And you'll get it. You'll get zapped at some point, but you got to keep walking the walk. And you know what I tell kids today? Show up. Suit up and show up is half the battle, if not more. I think kids want to pick and choose the big stuff. Listen, I still play county fairs. I still play casinos, because I know that somebody in that audience has never seen me before. Do you know what I mean? And I could talk for an hour about this. Kids are my heart now. I'm planning on the next part of my career really dedicating a lot of time to them, because they are the future. Grace, my daughter, 10 and a half, already is ready to be the next Hannah Montana. Elijah, skateboarder, he wants to play, but when he wants to. Gracie may make a career out of it and support me in my old age like I am my mom, which wouldn't that be a trip?
You can't reinvent Christmas, and I love Christmas music. I was telling Brent my favorite album maybe of all is the Gene Autry Christmas album.
Oh,
that may be my #1 favorite album of all time.
It's so corny. I love it.
Because it's so corny. I love it.
It's what we want,
and,
or what I want.
You took on the religious aspect of Christmas, and you took on the pop, and you put them both together. You took on songs that...
What do you mean by pop?
Christmas, the Mel Torme song, the Christmas song, the the more traditional, fun kind of
I
Santa
got
Claus
you.
and
Right,
stuff.
right.
And then you took on Emmanuel and those beautiful
more
church
worship
songs that are not even the ones we sing in church. It's the ones that we listen to.
Okay.
Someone perform in church. So
Okay.
you took the whole range for you. That was your first Christmas album too, I'm sure
Ever.
it is, isn't it? Okay.
Besides Mom and Me in '86, this is my very first solo.
What was on your mind when you said, okay, I'll do this, or was it your idea to do it?
That's a really good question. I think Brent and Dawn and I have talked about this very thing for years. And I think where I'm at in my life, I just have gone through a year of real transformation personally. And as a lot of people know in my fan club, I am very autobiographical. You said religious, but for me it's relationship. This album is about my relationship with my Lord, and it's about praise and worship. The fact that this time of year we are so jaded. I've heard more people say, another Christmas record? Like, oh, we have so many already, you know, and I'm really trying to remind myself of the reason for the season. I did it really as a labor of love. I put the kids on it. Of course, as a mom, I thrive in watching them be a part of anything I do. And it was really important to me, for me to mark this time in my life because, you know, really getting into being married and workshops, and that's a lot of work. It takes up a lot of energy and time. So I think this album is just really my heart and what it is I love about Christmas. Every single thing that I grew up loving about Christmas, I wanted to put into this big jar, and that's what this album is. All the sounds I hear, from the bells to the chorus of this beautiful orchestra. Oh my gosh! And we did it with the singers at the same time, very old-fashioned. But when you hear the oh come, I mean, it's just like. And like you, when I hear those sounds, I'm transformed, or I go back in time to when we had nothing, and we had a lot of music at Christmas. It was always in the background. So for me, this is a real labor of love.
Was it scary to take on some of these things? I mean, because, you know, everybody knows what Christmas is supposed to sound like. It's not like hearing the new Wynonna album.
Right.
There is something to play it against and judge.
Well, I knew what I didn't want. I knew I didn't want it to sound like I didn't want it so slick that it sounded so produced that you couldn't hear the real joyful, raw part of my voice, which I'm singing at a much higher register. There's that sweet spot in my voice where I really feel like there's that vulnerability and that sweetness, which I need more of. You don't hear the growl as much or the deep, you know, the rock star as much as you hear the stuff that's the sweeter part of my voice, like I said. Did you really? Oh, interesting. And I love jazz.
That's a compliment.
Thank you.
Believe me, because I mean, she had a very pure voice, and you do have that. Yeah, I didn't think about the growling, because that's always you, isn't it? Because you are.
I put it in there, well, because of my passion and because that's how I get out my frustrations and feelings.
There was a sweet Wynonna on here. I hadn't thought about that.
I really loved making this record because it allowed me to sit back and just sing and be, not worry about notes. I have a tendency to be quite the perfectionist. They've thrown me out many a day going, it's good enough, why? And I just allowed myself to enjoy it. That's the challenge, is to come in here, do your work, do your very best, and that's good enough, and not get so microscopic and everything be perfect. Time and time again, Brent would say, we're not doing it again because of the feeling, the mood that was in it. It's like that movie Like Water for Chocolate. When she cooked, people felt her emotions when they ate her food. Same thing with me. I want them to feel and hear my spirit and my love for this music when they hear it, not just me singing the notes right and it being the greatest producer in the history of the world. You know what I mean? It was an experience for me.
What's the most fun song on there for you?
Ooh, fun would be the kids, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Grace and Elijah, this is their, Gracie wanted to know, did this mean that she was in the union? And was $25 what they paid? That's how much she and Elijah made. The deepest part for me was Don Potter's song, It's the Messiah. I cried through the whole recording of it. And Ave Maria, I went to the next level. I always tell people, don't get stagnant in your job, in your marriage, in your relationships. And I took on something I thought I've bitten off more than I can chew, because when I went to the guy's house, my vocal coach, Rob Browning, who's awesome here in Nashville, he sat me down, put me on this computer thing, and we learned how my voice works. And I had to learn like a whole new language and a whole new way of singing as well, which is weird. So it challenged me.
Get two shots so they can run off. I'm trying to think where the track list is on here.
It's on the second.
It's on the what page? Second page?
Yeah, this isn't the very finished product.
Christmas song was I tell you which one I really like. Winter Wonderland. I don't know why I like that song. But
I don't either. I wasn't going to put it on here, and I thought, you know what? It's still one of my favorites, though.
It was one, if you had to tie me up and say, okay, you heard the album? Ave Maria sticks out more than anything.
I don't know.
I can hear it.
And you know that it's...
Nat King Cole.
I think
not Crosby on that one.
No,
he's
it's
White
not.
Christmas.
It's not Nat King Cole.
No, White Christmas is Bing. Yeah.
I can hear it with a girl singer.
You know that's a Soldier's song. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
it's sad.
I gotta
Of
find.
course it
Yeah, I
is.
gotta find out like what the reason was the guy wrote it. It had to do with a soldier writing home and saying, "I'll be home for Christmas." Ugh.
And then Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is another one that's is cool too.
You want the two shot of you talking?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
turn
okay.
away.
Yeah, back over.
You know what the verses of
It's an
Emmanuel?
interesting choice of songs here because there's so many to pick. You know, obviously you can go with Rudolph for the fun stuff and all that, but I don't know, it's just one of these albums, you know, obviously there's a lot of, this thing will be around for the end of time, longer than anything else you've ever done, which is always weird. You know,
I know that is weird,
if you
isn't
knock
it?
it out with a Christmas song, it will be here long after you're gone. They'll be playing, say, oh yeah, that was that Wynonna girl, you know, from
Oh
back
wow,
in,
that's interesting. I hadn't really gotten
2006, because I'm still playing songs, and I have on the radio for songs that are from the 50s.
And we all go
40s.
back to the same thing. Isn't it funny? It's like Baskin Robbins. You go for the same thing every time. It's just
Yeah, because
it's
where you have
comfort.
your
It's
memory.
comfort.
It's
It's
where your
tradition.
comfort zone is. It's comfort food.
It's
Christmas
tradition.
music is comfort food.
That's exactly right. That's why I put the ones on there that I love, because
Those are
I thought
comfort songs, and those are the ones that, I mean, I'll Be Home for Christmas, everybody sung that somewhere.
Can we get you to say hello to our editor at 6 o'clock?
Oh, my God.
Her name's Ashley, and
She is the
your
biggest one.
fan.
She's in the...
Ashley, my sister friend, how you doing? You want to get together for a good time? Call me.
Now, she gets mad at me because I give her, you know, because I'm pushing her sometimes. She gets aggravated. So she knows that I know Wynonna. So
Well, I love you too, and I need all the love I can get. Us girls got to stick together. Attitude, baby.
that's right.
No, she's put on great shows forever, and the family kind of all together has. Even her I guess her rogue sister. What's her rogue sister? Ashley Judd.
Ashley.
She's even been somewhat successful, but you know, I never really thought of Wynonna until I saw her live in concert as a singer. I always thought of her as an entertainer, but she, like you said, she can bring it. I mean, she can sing, and it's very soulful to me. I just feel like it's coming from a soulful spot. So if you ever get a chance to see her, and now, of course, you can only see her, go see her. It's well worth the price of admission, no doubt.
She's married to Scott Cactus Moser. Been married to him since 2012.
Yeah.
And he lost his leg in a motorcycle accident.
I am sensitive to that.
And,
I remember that. I can't remember how that happened, but I do remember it happened.
It was in the Black Hills of South Dakota.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the circumstances
I
were,
don't
how,
either.
why, or they wrecked. But anyway, he had a lot of rehab, but he's the drummer, and he's a one-legged drummer.
Yeah.
But he's got a prosthesis, but he's a cool guy. Used to be with a group called Highway 101.
Oh, I remember
but
that.
they
Yeah.
seem to be a great couple.
Yeah,
And,
been together a long time.
and they've been co-writing songs. I hope she gets out on the road sooner than later as a solo act.
Yeah.
And things are good for her. I only hope the best for Wynonna.
Yeah.
And the singing red-headed Judd.
Indeed. And there you go, another episode of The Vault. You can catch one every week right here on Sweeping the Country. Until next time, I'm Derik Walker. He is.
I'm Jimmy Carter.
Good
Good
day.
day.